Just like be yourself. Sounds so easy and so simple, and arguably is not. Especially when people are watching. It's hard to be authentic when people have opinions. It's hard to be authentic when you realize that being authentic comes with risks. And when this happens, you have two choices. You can either shrink into yourself or show up fully. And today, we're going to be talking about somebody who chooses to show up fully, unapologetically, even when it's hard. Chappell frickin' Roan, babe. Ah!
My name is Chappell Roan. I'm your favorite artist.
So, for those of you that don't know Chappell, she is a rising star in pop music, a queer icon, truly, in my opinion, an advocate and an activist in so many ways. I'm so inspired by her. But for those of you that do know Chappell Roan, you know that she is a masterclass in realness. In the episode today, I'm going to break down 4 things that Chappell does that allows her to be so authentic and, in a feminist way, charismatic. So, these 4 things are things that I've noticed as a social connection expert, and once I point them out to you, my goal is for you to hear this, and no matter where you are at on your social anxiety, social confidence, connection, charisma journey, no matter where you're at, you are going to hear these 4 things and be able to notice them in Chappell Roan and to be able to notice them in other people. And when you do that, it is so helpful for your brain to be like, oh, that's that thing that Jewel talked about, and that's how she's being really authentic. You're welcome. So, you can tell I already have the first thing on the board. I'm also probably dressed a little wild right now, and so let me tell you, it is, at the time of me recording this, 12:19 a.m. Yes, it is. This is because I had a speaker meeting that literally ended not that long ago, and I was gonna hang out with my partner, and he fell asleep, which is fair. So it's a Friday night, it's 12:19 a.m., and I have so much energy after this speaker meeting. So this speaker meeting is me meeting with my bro to talk about upcoming speaking engagements that I have and getting feedback on my speech and stuff, which, y'all, if you want me to come to your company, let's talk. I would love to connect. But I realized I was way too hyped up to go to sleep or even to start to wind down. And because, this is my podcast and I get to do what I want, it's my podcast, I'll do what I want. Yeah, I was like, I'm going to record the Chappell Roan podcast tonight. So I have my adorable earrings on that look so good with my outfit today. But I also have my comfy Sublime 40 ounces of freedom, anybody? My favorite Sublime crew neck here because I also want to be comfortable. And as you can tell on the board here, if you are watching on YouTube, I have 4 numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4 written out, and I already have the first one filled out. I was going to try to do that thing that people do where they cover the numbers, like the answers, up with paper and then they rip it off all dramatically. But again, now it's 12:21 a.m. So that's where we're at in life. Okay, let's get into it. So the very first thing that Chappell Roan does is that she is so self-aware and she practices radical self-acceptance. So you might be like, Jewel, these are 2 things. What do you mean? But really they're not, though. So Chappell Roan, she doesn't just know herself or know her strengths or her weaknesses. She's aware of the full complexity of being human, even the dark parts of her. So I'm going to give you an example in literally just a second, but I also want to share a personal example because I want y'all to be able to relate to this even if you're not famous. So for me personally, it was about over 10 years ago now when I realized I had a fearful, avoidant, or disorganized, insecure attachment style. So if you're not familiar with attachment styles, it's basically my thoughts, feelings, and behaviors, my collections of thoughts, feelings, and behaviors were very insecure in my relationships with every relationship I ever had, and not just romantic, but all of them. And my attachment style is where I would be really hot and cold, where I would be really anxious and then really avoidant and push people away at times. Now, being aware of this attachment style changed everything for me, even without having to do the work at the time to change my mindset. So stay with me here. When I realized I had a fearful avoidant attachment style, I got really curious and I started to understand so much about it. And I realized, oh, I have a fearful avoidant attachment style because, childhood. I was very emotionally abused, textbook emotional abuse. And so that, really resulted in me having a fearful avoidant attachment style. And I can have so much compassion for that part of myself. But, and here's the kicker, I realized that a lot of the behaviors that I were doing were really toxic. And I had to realize the dark parts of myself and be aware of them so that I could change them. So one thing that I did in my relationships, in my romantic relationships, all throughout high school and college, is I would do this thing where I would break up with my partner and not really mean it. I know. It's not great. Right? It's, really unhealthy and really harmful to the people that I did that to. So I would break up with them and then be anxious about losing the connection and didn't really mean to break up in the first place, didn't really actually want to break up, and then get back together with them. And again, very harmful cycle. Truly toxic, if you will, but recognizing, here's the dark parts of my humanness, right? Where I am behaving in toxic and dare I even say manipulative ways, so helpful to be aware of. Because before I could become secure, I had to recognize that and be so aware of that and even be accepting of, that's where I'm at. I had to take ownership over that, right? And y'all, a lot of mindset gurus out there want to paint mindset as the only answer, but truly the thing that helped me go from a fearful avoidant attachment style to a secure attachment style the most was having a relationship to my thoughts and feelings. And I could only do that through self-awareness and self-acceptance. I say this because when I realized I had a fearful avoidant attachment style, my brain was already wired that way from all the years. The meat and electricity inside my noggin was wired to be fearfully avoidant. So that was the computer programming that I was working with. I can't control that at that point. It's wired that way, right? I think this is what people get wrong about mindset. Then they're like, okay, I need to think better thoughts and feel better feelings to show up better. And your thoughts and feelings do have a dramatic impact on your life. But when you are dealing with that wiring, focusing on just trying to change your thinking alone can actually be really harmful. Because you're just trying to perfect and be like, nope, those thoughts are bad. All of the thoughts that I'm currently wired with, nope, bad. I shouldn't be thinking those. Just add shame on top of the situation. So, for me to realize, okay, this is what I'm working with my computer programming. I have this fearful avoidant attachment style. Being aware of it, being understanding of it, allowed me to then change my mindset, my feelings, and my behaviors, because when those reactionary urges would come up that were not great from my fearful avoidant attachment style, I could be like, that's my fearful avoidant attachment style. I see you. And then I could make a different decision about how I wanted to show up. And there were a lot of times where I would react with my fearful avoidant attachment style and be like, wait, I'm reacting this way with the current computer programming that I have. I'm trying to switch it to this computer programming. I see it. And Chappell Roan does this a lot as well. So I'm going to pull a direct quote from her. She says, a lot of people think that fame is the pinnacle of success because what more could you want than possibly the adoration of the whole world? And the adoration part is so addictive and not talked about. And I understand why I'm so scared to lose it. Because it's so scary to think that one day people will not care about you the same way they do right now. That's so scary. And I think it lives in women's brains a lot differently than men's. So really think about the power of this quote from her. Right? She's recognizing, self-aware, I can see myself, if you will, being addicted to the adoration part, being afraid of losing adoration of my fans, of the public. And because she is aware of it, she is self-aware and she is self-accepting, she's able to see it and make different decisions on how she wants to show up, right? She has a level of ownership of even the dark parts of her humanity. Now, this closely relates to number 2. Number 2 is true belonging. You might be like, that sounds kind of cheesy. It does. I think so too. True belonging is from Dr. Brené Brown, and here is what Dr. Brené Brown means by it. She means that true belonging is about embracing your authentic self so much that you can confidently share who you are with the world and feel strong when you stand alone. So embracing yourself, and embrace your authentic self so much that you can confidently share who you are with the world and stand alone. We can see how self-awareness and self-acceptance, and my whole rant I just went on a few minutes ago, is really related to true belonging, and in my opinion is an essential building block of true belonging. However, Chappell Roan also embodies true belonging in a way of she knows what she really likes, what she's really about, and she listens to that so much. So much. I've seen countless interviews of Chappell Roan, a lot of interviews of Chappell Roan, talking about how her art and her project, like what it means to her and how she made all of these different decisions. She listens to herself. She has true belonging. She's like, this is what I like. This is what I'm about. This is so helpful when you have so much visibility. And by visibility, I mean you have so many eyeballs, literally so many people aware of you and what you are doing, like all the things. And visibility fear, like people being like seen in that way, that's a hard thing to hold. When I first started my business, I had a lot of success really quickly, and I got recognized by a bigger coach in my industry who started featuring me on her podcast and having me do all these things. And I really had to hold so much fear around it, because at the time that I was coaching, I was just teaching people about emotional basics. I was still in a phase where I was like, I don't know what I'm fully about yet. I didn't have, if you will, true belonging. And so facing all of those eyeballs on me, and they weren't nearly a fraction of the eyeballs that are on Chappell Roan, was really hard for me to hold. I remember intentionally avoiding my phone because I was like, I don't want to look at any of the comments or followers or even the emails that I'm getting of people asking to work with me. I don't even want to look any of that. I feel like so many people are watching me. And it really wasn't even a fraction of what Chappell Roan is having to deal with. But Chappell Roan's visibility fear, she's able to hold it, be self-aware and accepting of it, and hold it because she has so much true belonging, right? Because she's so much true belonging. This is why she doesn't need everyone to like her. She just needs to belong to herself first. I want you to think about this. I make this point really clear. Think about the word belonging and what it means to feel like you belong. And then imagine having that feeling when you're standing alone in something. That's what we're talking about here. That's what we're talking about here. Chappell Roan has true belonging where she's able to embrace herself, listen to herself, honor herself, and it allows her to deal with so many eyeballs on her and for her to keep being a masterclass in realness. All right, number 3. Now, just like with number 2, number 3, anger is loving. Self-awareness and self-acceptance is a building block for true belonging and for anger is loving. Truly, like this is a building block for all of the numbers that come after it. This one right here. But I say anger is loving because we know that Chappell Roan is deeply loving about her community, about the LGBTQIA community, the queer community. But she also allows herself to be angry. And anger, in my opinion, is not the opposite of love. And sometimes anger can be the evidence of love. So here's what I mean. Because I love myself, I'm going to get angry and set boundaries for people not to talk to me poorly, right? Chappell Roan got criticized for not letting paparazzi or even fans talk to her or treat her in a certain way in her set boundaries because she loves herself. And because I love you, I'm going to get angry and march and protest and speak out on behalf of you. We saw this when Chappell Roan refused to perform at the White House for Pride and taking a stand for what she believes in. Anger can be self-loving. Anger can be community-loving. Allow yourself to feel it. Because Chappell Roan is really aware of the complexities of her humanness, she's aware, she's accepting of her anger, it allows her to use anger truly in a loving way, where she can be both of those things and embody and allow for both of those things. And this is very authentic because a lot of times, especially for women, we're taught that it's not okay for us to be angry. There was a study done that found that when men were angry, it was viewed as what's wrong, what happened to upset them. But when women were angry, it was viewed as a personality flaw. So this is why I said earlier, if I said it in this take and not the previous one where I messed up, Chappell Roan is very feminist and authentic. She embodies feminist charisma in this way where she attracts people to her by allowing herself the full human experience and knowing anger is loving. It has a place. It has a place. It's important. It is an important emotion. And I'm not just saying oh, we can't be angry for the sake of being angry. It doesn't always have to be loving, but I do think it's helpful for everyone, especially if you were a woman that struggles feeling with anger, to realize anger can be self-loving. Anger can be community-loving. And just like Chappell, you can allow yourself to feel it. Okay, last one. So we know that Chappell Roan is authentic because she is self-aware and practices self-acceptance. She has true belonging within herself. She allows herself to feel all of the emotions, even anger. Anger is loving. She prioritizes her character over her reputation. Now, I want to say, one thing that's so funny about this to me is this is something that I have known that when it comes to authenticity science, and yes, it's a thing and it's really hard actually to research and look into. I'm having a hard time trying to learn more and more and more about it. But authenticity science are being true to yourself, caring more about your character than your reputation, which yes. But I've seen some charisma experts say that the most magnetic people care about their character more than their reputation. They don't care what people think. And the way they would say it, these charisma experts, they'd be like, they don't care what people think, blah. I would always get a little frustrated because I would be like, the tone in which you were saying that, of they don't care what people think, is almost like pushing people away and acting like they're really unbothered. And that's not charismatic. So this to say, I had a sour taste in my mouth when I originally heard care about your character more than your reputation. And Chappell Roan restored that for me. Because we can see her truly embody it, and it's life-changing. So I want to read this quote to you. She said, "I think the longevity of my career is not up to me, but I think the longevity of my soul being protected and me not hating myself is what's going to stay the longest. Because a pop star's career, from the media's perspective, is up, 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 and you get to the pinnacle, and then everyone starts hating you, and then it's down, down, down. But what will not make me feel down about myself is if I can actually look back at this album cycle and be like, I did not crumble under the weight of expectations for what being a pop star is. I did not stand for being abused or blackmailed into do this or we won't play you on the radio, or do this or you'll never be asked back, or do this because you'll never get offered that much money again. It's who cares? At least I stayed true to my heart." Now, this quote here, I think, embodies all 4 of these lessons on authenticity, but I really wanted to, 1, end it on this, but 2, we can see how she's caring more about her character and what she stands for more than her reputation. This is what it means to have true belonging. This is what it means to be self-aware and accepting of yourself. What it means to be true to yourself, true to your emotions. I know number 4 is almost like a conclusion, if you will. But I think in general, the focus is really helpful for us all to see and to be aware of and to notice in ourselves and other people of, am I caring more about my character or my reputation right now? Because truthfully, a lot of people talk about the fear of rejection. I think there's also a fear of being misunderstood, being rejected because you are misunderstood in a situation. And it's so tempting just to be like, how can I fix this? If you just would understand me, if you just would get me, then it can be really frustrating to let people misunderstand you, not get you, etc. And that is huge. That is what it means to care more about your character over your reputation. That is what it means to have true belonging within yourself. And character over reputation, because Chappell also talks about how there are expectations of what it means to be a pop star. Or there are external pressures like play this or do this or else you'll never get that much money again. Oof magoof, am I right? Like, wow. And so for her to be like, actually, I don't stand by that, so I'm not going to play at the White House, or actually, my mental health is really struggling, I'm going to be true to my emotions, and I'm going to take a break, like how she canceled some of her concerts to care for her mental health. Okay, I need to care for me and my character over my reputation. That could have really, really shattered her reputation. And it probably did with some people. It also magnetized other people to her because they were like, wow, she's prioritizing her mental health. So all of these things, self-awareness and self-acceptance, owning who you are, even the dark parts of you, having true belonging, being true to yourself and your desires and what you stand for and what you want, being true to your emotions, and caring more about your character over your reputation, these things will help you be more authentic, but they'll also help you be more charismatic. They will attract your people to you. And Chappell Roan is also a fantastic example of that. Look at the community and the people that she has drawn and attracted to her, right? So my little challenge for you is to think about how you can embody these things just even 1 or 2% more. That's more than enough. Just to practice as you leave this episode here today. And I would love to know if there was a lesson or something you have learned from Chappell Roan or anybody else on what it means to be authentic. I would love to hear it. And all right, y'all, I will see you next week. Have a delightful week.